Hi, good afternoon from cold, New Jersey. This is Ram Ganesan, your Wednesday host for Dojo Live. I'm joined by, and I'm jealous, I should say, I'm joined by Tulio Siragusa from sunny Los Angeles as my co-host and partner in crime. And from another sunny place, Mark Boyce from Naples, Florida. Mark Boyce is the founder and CEO of Scribe, a healthcare technology solutions provider. And the topic that we're going to be talking about today is how do we use computer technology and software to improve productivity, profitability, and patient care for healthcare providers so that they can focus on what mattered most, which is their patients. So Mark, welcome to Dojo Live.
Thanks. It's nice to be with you both this afternoon. I hope you are not too cold up there in New Jersey.
I think indoors is fine. Outdoors is a different ballgame.
Yeah. I don't miss that cold at all.
Oh yeah. Well,
as I always say, the snow is pretty when it's falling. It's not pretty when you're shoveling it.
The first year I moved to California from New York, I was making fun of people who were wearing bomber jackets when it was 60 degrees. And 3 years later, I was making fun of myself for doing exactly the same thing.
You can do it for style. It's a fashion accessory.
Exactly.
There you go.
So yeah, Mark, once again, welcome to the show. I forgot to give a quick shout out to our sponsors, Encora Technologies. So Dojo Live is brought to you by Encora Technologies. And Mark, just over to you. Tell us a little more about yourself, your journey here, how you founded Scribe, and, just so that the audience can get to know you better.
Sure. Well, again, I'm an entrepreneur from way back. I've been an entrepreneur in companies large and small. I sort of always date myself when people ask that question because I helped actually starting out by founding the IBM PC division. So if you go way back then, I was part of that skunk works that was the group of people that, put that whole PC out there. And I can tell you lots of stories about that some other time. We're not here to talk about that today. But my journey is
made Bill Gates the world's richest man, I guess.
Oh, I have stories about listening to Bill Gates on the phone too. But I said we're not here to talk about IBM today. But,
yes, let's talk about Mark Boyce. That's correct.
But actually, I have done a lot of cool things, and I've sort of been at the front end of technology waves. Whether it was the PCs, and then I went off to a company called Annixter in Chicago, and that was when networking was becoming really big. And so I was their VP of marketing and strategy. And I spent a lot of time in Silicon Valley going up and down the valley, finding new products in the networking realm and helped grow that to over $1 billion. And then I went to a little company that we, within the space of 2 years, took from nothing to actually taking it public and selling it in the heyday of the internet, and that was called YesMail. And actually, YesMail's still around today. It was we invented permission email marketing. So don't yell at me, guys, because you get all these, these emails today, right? And then we were looking for something else to do after selling YesMail, and we took a look at the healthcare market. And the most interesting thing to me was that where we could make a difference was where the patient saw a physician. And I've always tried to see how you could better use information. And where a patient sees a physician, there's lots of information that's captured, and it wasn't being used properly. So using my technology expertise and, information manipulation and reporting, we created Scribe. And Scribe is an expert in medical documentation. We deliver technology-enabled services to thousands of healthcare providers, primarily in the United States, but around the world. And we've grown it from nothing to a very profitable company. And we focus in on what we call the 3 Ps: profitability, productivity, and patient care, as you introduced. So my background is, one from starting out with a very large company, but being an entrepreneur, to now actually creating my own company and growing that.
That's great. That's great, Mark. So you've been both an intrapreneur, as a technical term is, and an entrepreneur, and some interesting stories there. So yeah, coming back to Scribe, how has this whole pandemic situation affected your business? Good, bad? Have you seen it kind of exploding because there's a lot of this telehealth and all of that remote patient care going on? So maybe demand for your services has also exponentially gone up. What's going on in your world today because of the pandemic?
Well, it's been both good and bad. It initially started out, well, first I should say Scribe is very much a virtual company. So when everybody talks about working from home, we've been working from home for over 10 years. And we had, yeah. So, our people weren't coming into an office. They didn't have to learn how to work differently. So we were able to carry on just as we always have without missing a beat. The problem was with our customers for a while is, when you deal like we do with primarily outpatient care, where people are going and visiting the doctors, for the first few months, people weren't going anywhere. And so it actually ended up taking a lot out of our business. However, because we have a lot of virtual solutions, we have people that instead of having to go into a medical office to provide scribing to physicians, we have people who can do that remotely. We have a telehealth solution so that instead of going in to see your physician, you can actually, log into our system and see your physician that way. So we've actually seen our business come roaring back, both in the third and fourth quarter of last year, and we've seen a lot of customer growth even this year as the pent-up demand for people to help them do more tele-related things, telehealth, as well as virtual scribing type capabilities has grown because you can't get people to go places. So it's been very good for our company.
And what do you think is the future of the Scribe solution? Is that going to be permanently changed because there are some paradigm shifts in terms of how healthcare point of delivery is changing?
Yeah, I think that is really important. I think that a lot of what we've learned in the pandemic is how to utilize technology better. Instead of, as we say, have physicians sit in front of a computer and do things, they need to be wherever they can be to address the needs of the patient. And having these big EMRs that, you're sitting in some silo someplace are not going to work. And so we see using our mobile application, which is our, primary piece of technology, both on a phone and on an iPad or, whatever kind of mobile device. Even as we look down the road here, we're beginning to hook our devices and our technology into the Alexas of the world, and she's probably going to yell at me, or the Google Homes and things like that, so that the devices, the platforms become much more portable and the information becomes much more portable and much more summarized, if that sort of makes sense. So you're taking all this information and you're letting, as we say, the physician focus on the patient because they have everything that they need right there. They don't have to go hunting through an EHR to find things. It's right where they need it, and they don't have to, have people come into their office. We can bring experts all over to help them wherever they are. They could be in Naples and you could be in New Jersey, and we have people from California who are helping the physician.
Got it. So a truly remote distributed solution. A natural next question for me would be, do you see AI and speech synthesis, speech recognition, and all of those technologies that we see with, you mentioned Alexa, transforming your business, or is it disrupting? Do you see it as a challenge, or how do you see it complementing Scribe?
Actually, we see it complementing Scribe. We're customers of Amazon Web Services. We do a lot of work with their product managers and things. And we see the use of that technology where it's all enabled by voice really growing. And I've said to people before, and this is from my networking days and things, I said the last Ethernet card will still come off an assembly line or be buried in a computer someplace long after I'm dead and gone. And the same thing with documentation services. There will still be people either editing or doing things with medical documentation long after I'm retired and gone. But over time, the use of that technology, the use of speech recognition will change. As a matter of fact, we're just about to announce a revolutionary new product into the marketplace that we call Scribe now. And that, significantly reduces the time and the effort involved in creating medical documentation by letting physicians, again, use our mobile application and very quickly create that. Think of it that instead of sending off this audio file to somebody to be transcribed or to go through speech recognition or what have you, or in a lot of the cases having a physician sit in front of a computer and type things in or even try to speak things in, we're letting them now begin to use our mobile application to just speak into it. And we can then think of you go to a PT and you want to have the instructions. Well, somebody doesn't have to sit there and type it up. The physical therapist can just speak into their mobile device, and when they're done, out pops the documentation for you, either printed or emailed to you. And also, because of our robotics and our AI, we can take and parse that into all sorts of great little pieces of information, and we can put it into their EHR for them, so they never have to sit in front of the computer. Those are the kind of things that we see, that those voice-enabled services and the AI to actually make sense of the information, really creating a lot of productivity and reduce a lot of expense for healthcare.
So, Mark, I have a follow-up to that. A few years ago, I was an advisor to an AI startup, and one of the investors came up with this use case where one of the largest hospital groups in the country, the significant loss of revenue just by the fact that either equipment wasn't tagged correctly, information got lost in the process of caring for patient. It was staggering to me, the billions of dollars that aren't captured just from simple human error, just not tracking every care that was given to a patient, for example. And then we end up paying for that, right? It's not money that goes away. So does this improved efficiency in patient care also impact the efficiency on how billing happens for that patient care, and does it capture some of those losses? Is that something that's a follow-on to what you're working on?
Yeah, if you think about it, one of the reasons we say we're, the second P, the profitability is that a lot of times physicians are overworked. And if you look at some of the statistics and things, you'll see that, it's not that they're spending, they spend a lot of time with patients, but over 30% of their time each day is spent on documentation. So if you can get them to give better documentation, right, by just speaking, then you can capture all those other things that they do. They may forget that, and if they're sitting in front of the computer, they want to type the stuff as quickly as they can so they can get on to the next patient. If they can talk about it, they can give much richer information. So then they might remember immediately that, okay, well, they did these 3 other tests, or they actually talked to the patient about these 3 other things, which will allow them to increase the amount of billing that they could do. And it also improves the patient care, because now you've got richer information for the next person who looks at it. What we are doing with the AI, which I think you make a great point with, is the physician shouldn't have to figure that stuff out. The AI should be able to take what the physician says, which is what we do, and we put it through it, and we parse it into all sorts of little discrete pieces of information. And we have the capability today to actually take those and add all the great codes to it. So if the physician is talking about diabetes, we'll actually add a code to it. We'll say, okay, well, that's, ICD-10 code, whatever. I don't know all the codes. Or if they're talking about x-rays, they can actually, by running that text that we create through an AI engine, we can actually get out the information that, oh, there was a test performed, and here's the CPT code for doing that, or the LOINC code, or here are the medications, and so here are all the RX codes for those. So our whole goal is let the physician talk, let all that technology in the background actually then take and categorize it so you can bill for all of those things and make that physician more productive, profitable, and let them spend more time with patients as opposed to 30% on documentation.
And that's true value add, right? How many times have we seen all these insurance claims and bills coded wrong, incorrectly, a medical professional spending oodles of time trying to really map what service they provided to the provider's code, etc., and then finally still getting it all wrong, and then the patient is dealt with, dealing with the insurance people now to rectify that bill. And if you can, just by parsing audio and applying this categorization technology, right, having a computer do this instead of a human, I think you're right. It's going to improve profitability and accuracy of that information dramatically. And then to top it, you're automatically pushing that into the EHR or billing system or whatever it is, and thereby reducing the time that it takes for them to actually make the claim.
That's right. And, that's where we look at it. I look at, having been in all these different industries, I look at technology life cycles, right? I used to serve on a board with the treasurer of EMC, and, I'd always say to her, you're selling multi-million-dollar widgets, right, when they started out. Right. And, now you can go across the street to Best Buy and for, at that time, $250, buy the same thing you were selling for multi-millions of dollars. Well, the same thing we hope and we expect will occur in healthcare is these multi-million-dollar systems. I mean, University of Chicago spent over $100 million in 5 years to install Epic. No Fortune 500 company is going to do that. You have to begin to take cost out of some of these huge systems and enable the productivity by doing the things you were just mentioning to make healthcare more affordable. I mean, and to make information more portable. That's the whole goal with what we're doing. And that technology life cycle that said, you used to spend $100 million for this system. Well, you can now get some of these things, frictionless for a fraction of that cost. And that's how we begin to solve some of the cost problems in healthcare, as well as some of the information accessibility, which, like you said, an insurance company, they don't have the right information. They're going to go back and say, deny, deny, deny. Well, if we can now streamline that information so they get it right, the old IBM saying, you get it right the first time, that makes a huge difference.
And sometimes, especially in healthcare, what I've seen is that technology tends to overcomplicate things. It used to be simpler in some ways, and then in some ways, technology has definitely come to the rescue, right? But clearly, what we feel and what I feel strongly is that this is really all about building a cohesive, multimodal digital experience. What Scribe is doing is building a provider-patient digital experience where ultimately you're making it easier for the providers to be able to take care of their patients by just speaking into Scribe Now or whatever your solution is, and not worrying about typing it up and putting it on the EHR or creating a printout or other things that would get in the way of them taking care of it. And especially in this regulatory environment with HIPAA compliance and whatever other regulations there are when it comes to the healthcare data space, right? I'm pretty sure this is a very important component of that whole solution.
That's right. I mean, again, by having that rich information and actually being able to have that audio record, and in some cases, maybe also a video record of actually went on, you've now got auditable, trackable information that you can go back to and say, yeah, the physician did do these things. Okay. And it really, because you're now just using people speaking as opposed to making them sit. I mean, you're absolutely right with those EHRs. EHRs, I had an argument with a congressman once upon a time when, Obamacare came out. He said, oh, this is going to fix everything in terms of information capability. I said, did you ever sit in front of an EHR? Did you ever see what those poor physicians have to go through?
Right.
I mean, in some cases, and even to be able to bring up a patient to begin a documentation process, it could take them from 1 to 5 minutes just to get ready, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, that's a highly skilled, highly paid individual wasting time. So time is definitely money there. So I'm curious to find out how adoption's coming along. We're going from literally a tablet, a handwritten pen and paper on a tablet, to the user experience becoming digital. How's the adoption coming along with this product? Is it easier to move right from writing on a piece of paper to actually scribing using voice than to using a tablet, or is it a hybrid? What are you noticing is causing better adoption?
It's the capability to have that multimodal option, okay? Because you've got physicians at different points in their career, you've got in their age and their specialty. And so by encapsulating in, for example, our mobile application, the ability to do the old audio, which is the old dictation, the ability to, have all your patient information right there so you can have it charted and look at past information, the ability to have a live person, much like we're doing here, enter things immediately into the EHR. And now with our Now product, to be able to let them actually create their own documentation, you can take them along that technology, stream, if you will. And so the adoption grows. The one statistic that I, quote all the time now is, when we started out, everybody used to call an 800 number. These physicians would sit in a little pod in a hospital in their office with stacks of paper documents that they'd taken notes on, and they'd sit there each day and dial up and sit on the phone and create their dictations. That accounted for probably 80 to 90% of what we did. Now it's less than 20%. Almost 80% of the information that we actually take and manage and create comes through our mobile app in those different modalities. So until the iPhone came out, none of that happened. Once the iPhone came out, 10, 12 years ago, whatever it is, then we could get on the path. We used to try and get physicians to just sit on the web to get their information. Yeah, that was too complex. But they love having these mobile devices. They take it with them everywhere, and it untethers them, and it makes them much more productive.
And now you're going upstream with that whole thing, right? So
right.
You're going upstream, you're tagging insurance codes and RX codes and whatever the other things are. Curious, what's the future in terms of video and images and all of that? Is Scribe moving from just audio transcription or audio note-taking, if you will, to maybe something more on the video and imaging side? Like, is computer vision part of that whole strategy in the long term?
Yeah, if you look at it today, we actually allow physicians to take pictures and videos with their iPhones, and those can automatically be incorporated into their documentation. It's great for example, for PT people to see range of motion and things like that, so they have it actually documented. So we see that increasing. When we do our live scribing, we can actually record that encounter. But now, again, you got to be careful because there's some privacy concerns. You want to balance the privacy with what you actually offer to them. So the images that are very specific that can assist in the patient care, or the videos, those kind of things, yeah, we absolutely see this. But the nice thing is we don't see the human coming out of this. A lot of other people have tried to say, well, we're going to let the computers take everything over, right? And that doesn't work. You got to have somebody who's got, can think outside the box, have some assistance from some of these things. but can actually then use that training that they've had, not be so concerned about, well, did I check this box or check that box, but that can actually use their knowledge to do what they went to med school for, which is take care of their patients.
Yeah, I'm curious about the automation. I'm curious about 5G, the impact that might have with more connected devices, right? Imagine being in an operating room where all the various pieces of equipment are interlinked and networked. And depending on proximity to the patient, it might offer up, for example, a choice. Oh, is this what you're using? Is that what you're using? I'm curious, is there a process is there thought around potentially trying to automate some of these functions where you still have to have the interaction that either validates whether that's correct or not, whether it's done digitally or voice? Is that the future of where it's going that could potentially enhance this even further?
Yeah, if you think about it, one of the things that we're doing with our telehealth kind of solutions is just beginning to scratch the surface, because and it's all about being able to bring as many people to bear on the patient's case. Like we're talking from all over the country. If you can now have that remote capability to not just do one-on-one with your patient, but to bring in experts wherever they might be, to have that patient care and to have those information records readily available, that's great. Now you marry that, and this is where we're going next, is you marry that with the devices that are capturing information about the condition of a patient, like everybody's getting their Apple Watch or they've got their Fitbit or whatever. And as you begin to take that Internet of Things and connect it into some of the technology that we have, and that information, again, you can't have too much information, but if you take that information and you can streamline it and get the physician just what they need, depending on their particular specialty, then you also improve the patient care, right? Because they've got exactly what they need.
Interesting.
It appears Scribe is taking advantage of the internet in so many ways that Dojo Live is, right? Like this thing have been done in a broadcast studio, in a professional camera environment, and we're sitting.
We don't have to fly in somewhere.
Yeah.
I mean, just think of the cost and the production effort.
Oh yeah.
Think of this, right? You're just on like that. It's live streamed to the world, multiple streaming platforms, and it's all via the internet. And ultimately, it is a digital experience, which brings me back to that same theme. I think what I'm taking away from this is that what Scribe endeavors to provide to patients and to healthcare providers is that digital experience that improves productivity and profitability. And I forget the third P.
Patient care.
Patient care, right? Of course. And so we're coming up on time. Mark, are there any closing thoughts or remarks for you, for the audience?
No, I thank you guys very much. This is a great discussion. And like I said, it's an evolution. It's not a revolution. And so we hope to continue to be at the forefront of this kind of evolution to help healthcare be better for everybody.
There you go. And
nice.
Thank you very much, Mark, for your time. And once again, we were speaking to Mark Boyce, founder and CEO of Scribe, healthcare documentation, from the good old days of transcribing from an 800 number to now adopting AI and speech technologies to improve medical documentation in 2021. Thank you again, Mark, for your time. Once again, this is Ram Ganesan, your host. I'm joined by Tulio Siragusa. We are on Dojo Live, sponsored by Encora. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Stay safe.